Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Chang Robotics Brand Call. We are so excited. We have an engaging hour full of updates and some epic interviews for you all. If you have any questions throughout the whole webinar, please drop them in the chat and the Q&A feature, and we will get to those at the end. So let's go ahead and jump into the content. Let's start off with what we've been up to lately. We've been sending our engineers to customer sites to help them figure out production issues, and last month there were 7 site visits, so a busy travel month for the Chang Robotics team. We have the privilege of partnering with Jacksonville University to house our robot studio, which will be a physical location for some of our robots to live, and people can come and tour, see what we're all about. It's going to be an interactive, really cool space. So if you're interested in a tour, feel free to reach out via the contact form on our website, which is changrobotics.ai, and we'll get you scheduled once tours begin. One of our guests actually for the interview portion today will be touching on this a little bit more, so stay tuned for that. In other exciting news, Kodiak Technologies, our battery electric snow removal equipment company, has appointed a new CEO, Mark Manning, who is actually on our second brand call. Mark has over 20 years of experience, and we're very, very excited to have him on board. Check out a recent press release went out on him. You can find that on our website for more details, and our previous brand calls where he was one of our guests. We're also getting ready to execute a production trial of Go Eco with a food-grade paper products manufacturer, and we'll discuss that more on the next slide. Next up, we have an update on Go Eco. If you missed last month's brand call and don't know what Go Eco is, it is a product that uses graphene oxide to replace harmful PFAS in food packaging. So it's compostable, it's oil resistant, it's high strength, and more. And we're really excited. We're getting ready to do an industrial pilot for a producer in the space. And we've had quite a few discovery calls with companies interested in the product. So to learn more about this, check out our latest press release on Go Eco. You can see it on the right side of the screen, a little snippet of it. And we've also discussed it on some previous brand calls as well. And brand calls, previous ones, can be accessed by going to our website and then /brand calls. So super easy to access. And yeah, next up. Next up, we have a feature on some of the ways we've been giving back to our community. Matthew Chang, our founder, is now serving St. Vincent's Hospital's Foundation Board, which is awesome. We're also sponsoring 3 National Science Foundation initiatives and sponsoring a major U.S. airport federal grant application. We produced the Powering the Future event. In the bottom left, you'll see that. That event was actually just yesterday, and it was a huge event for Jacksonville and a win for our local community. We had 12 powerhouse speakers and focused on electric vehicles and manufacturing in Jacksonville and beyond. It was really awesome to bring the community together in Jacksonville and get people excited for what's going on and what's to come in their city. And that's just something we're really passionate about at Chang Robotics. And we're also leading some other city innovation initiatives in Jacksonville that we'll touch on a future call. Lastly, our president, Kate McAfoose, will be the keynote speaker for an upcoming event that the Sciences is putting on. And that's the cute little logo in the bottom right corner. They're all about providing young girls with the resources that they need to excel in STEM. And we're all about that too. So that's going to be super exciting. So that's a recap of our recent engagements in community building. And now I'll pass it back to Dr. Don Kaepner, who will start us off with our interviews for the day.
I'm super excited to announce our first interviewee today, Tammy McClafferty. And Tammy, it's great to have you join the Chang Robotics Brand Call today. We're super excited to have Tammy here. She has an incredible background. You see it up there. She's currently the executive director of LifeWork Leadership, which is, we're going to talk about the faith-based focus that they have for leaders. And it's something near and dear to my heart, having earned my PhD in strategic management and practicing this in international business for years. She has a doctoral degree and several master's degrees, and all in both education and spiritual leadership. She's the founder of the Sycamore Center and specializes in faith-based leadership and empowering professionals like all of you here today. So Tammy, welcome, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
I've got couple of questions for you right out of the gate, and we'll also open it up to our participants out there in case they have some questions using the Q&A button on the top navigation. But I'm going to start right away with talking about what is the Jesus business model, and tell us a little bit about that. That's so compelling. And so many religions, in addition to Christian faith, of course, but even other religions look at Jesus Christ as truly someone who embodied some of the best leadership and teaching techniques that we've ever known, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, excuse me, I think that's where the Jesus leadership model comes from, is this idea that there was this man, whether you are a Christian or not, no belief at all, who hands down is the world's greatest leader of all times. We have statistics and surveys. I think it was in 2014, Forbes magazine called Jesus Christ the greatest leader of all times. There was a study that was conducted by 2 industrial leaders in their market, and they basically did a bracket, and they took the greatest leaders of all time, good and bad. I mean, Hitler was in there, Jesus was in there, right? We had all these different types of leaders, and they seated them against each other with all of their characteristics and their leadership styles and different things that they did. And they seated these leaders against each other, and they kept filtering out this bracket until they got to the greatest leader. And Jesus Christ was that leader. And so you look at this, and then you look at really the organization that he created, and his organization, this faith movement, this church that he created. And you can't help but recognize, as a business leader, what a great job he did in creating this organization. You look at it and think, he started this organization with 12 business leaders. When we look at the 12 disciples, there was a fisherman, so we have the labor industry. There was a doctor, so we have the healthcare industry. There was a zealot, so we have the military. There was a politician. Timothy was a politician. We had a tax collector, so we have the business district. So he strategically brought together 12 business leaders who were varying educations, varying ethnicities, varying religions of the time. And he brought this team together, if you used our modern day words, and he built this team that launched this organization that has touched the lives of millions and millions of people. It is still the #1 best-selling book in the Bible that's being produced thousands of years later. So when you talk to any business leader and you say, hey, would you like to start a business that lasted thousands of years and touched millions of people and changed the world? I think any business leader would say, yes, I love that model. How do I do it? And so at LifeWork, the organization, that's what we do, is teach that Jesus business model.
Wow. Well, tell me a little bit more about your organization then, and maybe one or two, I guess, impactful things that have happened since you started in Jacksonville. Because I know you relocated that to Jacksonville and uprooted yourself, and what's been the impact? Tell us about your organization and what's been kind of the impact that it's made.
Yeah, for sure. So LifeWork Leadership really is just, we call it an 8-month journey where we take business leaders and professionals from every background and walk them through this concept of leading like Jesus did in your company, in your business, in your workplace. And so we have watched this morph into creating this organic network in each city that LifeWork is in. So now LifeWork is in 23 different cities around the world. It's a global organization. And so in each city, we are organically creating this network of people who share the same values and share the same morals and really end up coming into a city and transforming that city. And, LifeWork's motto is transforming leaders to transform a city. And so in comparison to other leadership development programs or different conferences or seminars that you can go to, LifeWork is really designed to equip these leaders to go back into their job, into their workplace, into their city, and make a difference. And so again, whether or not you are a faith-filled person, when you look at the characteristics that Jesus used to launch this business that he did, it was characteristics that anybody would want in their company and on their team and in their organization. So LifeWork takes those top 10 leadership characteristics that we see, and we teach that to these business leaders in this journey. So we look at integrity, being a person of integrity. It doesn't matter what your faith is. If you have a team of people that's built with integrity, you're going to be more productive in your industry. We look at compassion. If you create a team of people that have compassion for one another, have compassion for their city, you're going to create an organization that is much more effective, much more dynamic, much more thrilling to be a part of, because you see people that are demonstrating compassion. And so we take those characteristics, teach it to our business leaders, and then at the end of it, we call it a commissioning interview. So when you finish this journey, that we call it, you then have to sit with our team and say, okay, I just went through this 8-month journey, and here is the action that I am going to take in our city. So we make it extremely city-centric in each of these cities. And then
what about Matthew? Matthew Chang, our own, he went through this training, right? And
he did.
And of course, we as an organization have now embraced all these principles that you've taught, and you've seen his involvement in Jacksonville. I'm sure you have graduates that you're proud of that are making an impact in these 23 cities.
Absolutely. Well, and of course, Matt's the best. I mean, I have to say, he's the greatest alumni of LifeWork all time. So, but he does now sit on the board. So I think he was so impacted by this leadership program and the uniqueness of it that, he now is a part of us. But yes, we have seen, there's so many stories that we can tell of people who have left this and said, hey, one of the things we work on is we say it's to identify your calling. And you would think with business leaders who are pretty far along in their careers that they know what they were called to do. They're doing it. They wouldn't be this far along. And yet we come across a high percentage of leaders who really, when they break it down and look at their gifts and their passions and their talents, they aren't always doing exactly what they are gifted and called to do. And so every year, I would say there are 50 people in a class. I would say half of the class walk away from LifeWork and say, I'm not really doing what I think I'm supposed to do. I found myself in this career because I just took the next step and here I am, or it's the money, or it's the whatever. So really helping people identify what they're called to do, and then helping them take that calling and make it impactful beyond just a P&L and a bottom line, but truly transformational in a city.
So I'm going to follow up on that, because the Chang Robotics Fund, its purpose literally is to create seed capital and investment opportunities in companies that have not only profit potential and a clear commercialization path, but also are going to do good to the community, not just by hiring people, but they'll grow and they'll hire people and they'll have mortgages and car loans and all those things to stimulate the economy. But beyond that, they have social good as part of every one of these business models. What's your thought, given you're part of that organization, and this is the brainchild of Matt Chang and many other like-minded people, to spread this in a much bigger way than we can as an individual company? What are your thoughts? And as somebody who's a graduate of your program, how might that help the communities that have these kinds of, I'll call them inspirational leaders, and this injection of capital and the philosophy that you espouse and have taught?
It's typically these leaders will catch this vision and say, hey, I want to be part of this with my company, or I want to bring it to my company. You know, as an executive in a company, they'll want to bring this model in. And what we see is, you know, I tell investors all the time, if you decide to invest in, let's just pick homelessness, right? That's an area in a city that can sometimes be overwhelming in a city. So you decide, hey, I'm going to get engaged in this. I'm going to fight this battle. I'm going to come alongside, and I'm going to donate money to XYZ organization in the city that's helping homelessness. That's powerful and that's wonderful, and we need that. However, what happens when you as a company say, hey, I'm going to take my entire company and I am going to utilize my entire company to help homelessness. Now it's not one person and one check and $1 helping homelessness, but it's a team of people that come alongside in an organization and say, hey, I want to help homelessness. The impact is so much more dramatic, not only to the homeless people that are going to have more hands and more eyes on them, but for the people within the company. We all know, even though it's hard to do in our busy, crazy business lives, we know that when we volunteer and when we serve and when we give back, we ourselves are changed and we're better employees and workers. We know that. We don't always find the time to do it. So when our business leaders create a culture in their environments like Chang Robotics, where their culture is about helping a community, it allows your employees and the people within your organization to find the time to do that type of stuff. And it just makes a bigger impact. You know, we as an organization at LifeWork, we're so passionate about it that we don't want to just teach it to business leaders. We've really said we want to live it out. And so in the last 5 years, we've started 3 of our own, we call them redemptive entrepreneurialism. So it is literally starting businesses to redeem demographics in the city, to help with job placement. And so we've launched these coffee shops called Cup of Job, based off of Job 22:21, which is our verse. And each of these coffee shops strategically placed around our city are hiring different demographics to serve them. So it's just been an amazing model to watch grow.
Yeah, we saw a demonstration of that at Jacksonville Venture Competition. Amazing stories. And I want to congratulate you and your team for, you know, really putting into action this idea that we can learn from the greatest teacher of all time how to better do business. And a lot of people don't apply that. I mean, you have done that. And I think it's been a real unlock or aha moment for a lot of us. And we're so pleased to have had you today as part of the brand call. We thank you for taking time out of your summer vacation to spend a few minutes with us, Tammy. It's been really enjoyable. And I thank you for being part of the Chang Robotics Brand Call.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I'm going to jump off. Like you said, I'm on vacation. I would love to stay and listen, but I'm going to jump off. And if you guys need anything, let me know. It was great to connect.
Thank you, Tammy. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Richard Parnas. Dr. Parnas is not only a longtime University of Connecticut chemical and biomolecular engineering professor, but we're going to talk to him today about the innovation that he unlocked along with some of his partners to found REA, Resource Recovery Systems. This company, where I'm not going to steal any more thunder, what they've done is amazing. We're actually going to talk about this technology that's actually working in the city of Danbury, Connecticut. And so welcome Dr. Parnas to the Chang Robotics Brand Call.
Thanks, Don. It's a pleasure to be here. I was a little bit surprised at the first presentation. You guys are going for an extremely wide net. It's interesting.
Well, I'm glad that you took time to hear from Tammy, who I think no matter what your faith, or even belief in intelligent design, the idea to take principles that have worked and try to incorporate them to improve your community and, of course, your individual business. I think you can accept that, hey, it's worthy of not just experimentation, but lauding if it works. So we're happy to have Tammy. It's amazing to have you here. We're so excited. The Chang Robotics Fund, which we're excited to have finalized and ready to go before the end of this month. We're hoping to make a strategic investment in your company. And for that reason, we're so pleased to have you join our brand call today. And I've got a couple of questions for you, and 3 questions. And hopefully, if you have time, you can stick around in case there's any Q&A from the audience. But I'll jump right in if that's okay.
Sure, let's go.
So can you explain REA's systems technology, how it differs from a traditional water reclamation method, and then particularly highlight its ability to remove the difficult particles from wastewater?
Okay. This material, I don't know if you folks can see it on your camera. This material here is what we start with. It's called brown grease. Okay, and brown grease shows up at the wastewater treatment plant, both in the main influent coming in the pipes. Also, it shows up as a component of FOG, F-O-G, stands for fats, oils, and grease, that's delivered by truck. At room temperature, it's a solid material, as you can see, but it's mostly a material called free fatty acid, which is very corrosive. And wastewater treatment plants have a great deal of difficulty dealing with this. I'll get into it more in just a minute. What we do is we chemically convert it to some stuff called biodiesel. And this is our raw biodiesel here. And the only difference between this and commercial grade biodiesel is it has too much sulfur. The brown grease that came in has about 1,000 parts per million sulfur. This has about 200 parts per million sulfur. And when we finish it, we make a nice crystal clear diesel fuel, as shown here, that has about 10 parts per million sulfur, so it's legal to sell both in the United States and in Europe. So this stuff that I showed at the beginning here, this brown grease, is what Don is referring as the hard-to-remove particles. And there are particles, but also just various molecules and materials in it that make up this stuff. And this stuff, I wouldn't say it's terribly difficult to remove from the wastewater. Other places do it in what are called fog receiving systems. The difficulty, Don, isn't so much in removing it, it's in doing something with it afterwards. Okay? In places where I live in Connecticut, this material gets incinerated. Now, remember what I said, it has 1,000 parts per million sulfur, loads and loads of nitrogen in the form of proteins that are part of the food waste that are in it, and lots and lots and lots of other contaminants. Incinerating it's not really a good idea. So another thing that people do with it, or have done with it in the past, is landfill. And when you landfill it, it turns your landfill into a toxic landfill that needs all sorts of special handling procedures. And that whole process is becoming illegal at this point, so you can't really landfill it anymore. Another workable option is to put it in a biodigester. Newly designed biodigesters can handle this stuff. 90% of the biodigesters that are out there are older, and if you put too much of this stuff in it, it'll ruin the biodigester and kill all the biota in the biodigester. But in a good biodigester, you can convert about 40% of this to methane and the rest into a carbonaceous residue. Okay, that's okay, but you've got to build a biodigester for that. And so we remove this material from the wastewater stream and convert it to this crystal clear diesel product. And about 75% of the brown grease gets converted to this. Another 20% gets converted to boiler fuel, it's slightly lower grade fuel. And so we convert about 95% of this brown grease into a nice clean fuel under all the regulatory umbrellas. and it's very usable and very worthwhile both economically and environmentally.
Wow, that's amazing. And you've already answered part of the second question, which I had for you, which was describing the process of converting the particles into biodiesel. So we heard about that, but how does this help a municipality like the city of Danbury, Connecticut? And what is the opportunity for other municipalities across North America?
Right. Yeah. So let me go back to the process first. Then we'll talk about both economic and environmental advantages, and then how widely it can be deployed. I'm just rephrasing your question. I hope that's okay.
No, that's great.
Yeah. Anyway, so the process, like I showed these three little tubes, our process is divided into three portions. The front part of our plant is the fog receiving station, which is fairly conventional. And as I said, a lot of other places do fog receiving because it's necessary to get this stuff out of the wastewater stream. But then we go through a chemical conversion process where we use two chemical reactions to convert the major components in the brown grease into the biodiesel. The two major components of the brown grease are something I refer to as free fatty acids. It's a weak acid at room temperature, but if you put it in an engine, it'll tear your engine apart, or your whole heating oil system, okay? So you have to convert that. The other major component of the brown grease are triglyceride oils, and those are standard vegetable oils and animal fats. That's because the brown grease is really a degradation product from the restaurant industry. Okay, it's the greases that go down the drain and either go through the sewer over a period of months or sit in grease traps for weeks and weeks and degrade. So the vegetable oils and animal fats degrade to these free fatty acids. Not all of them do. So the triglycerides that are left, we use a second chemical reaction, which is the conventional transesterification reaction in the biodiesel industry for converting vegetable oils to biodiesel. The difference is that we have all these free fatty acids that we also have to convert. In any case, the second part of our plant has these two sets of reactors that convert all the material into biodiesel. The third part of our plant has to get the sulfur out. And again, this is something different from the traditional biodiesel industry, because if you start with a high-grade feedstock, you don't have this sulfur problem. The sulfur that we have comes from all sorts of contaminants in the material, and so we use a process called vacuum distillation. That's a fairly standard refinery process, just repurposed for this in order to get our sulfur out and make this crystal clear diesel fuel. Okay, so we do this. What's the advantage for Danbury and other municipalities? Well, Danbury, just like other municipalities all over the country and all over the world, have this brown grease problem. Have to get rid of it one way or the other. And as I mentioned, you might be able to incinerate it. In some parts of the country and in some parts of the world, you could still landfill it, or you could put it in a biodigester. The problem is, in many places with biodigesters, they're too small to make it worthwhile cleaning up the biogas and burning the methane to make electricity. So for example, right here in Danbury, we're located at a 10 million gallon per day wastewater treatment plant, which is a small to medium-sized wastewater treatment plant. We have biodigesters here. It's never really been worthwhile to Danbury to spend the money to clean up the gas and make electricity. Plus, only 40% of the brown grease we have would get turned into methane anyway. The rest would be turned into a residue that you then have to work with and do something with. So while biodigesters are a workable solution, they're not economically or environmentally the best solution. Landfilling is a ridiculous solution at this point. Incineration is also going to be regulated out of existence as the air permits get tougher and tougher. So our benefit to Danbury is that we've eliminated their brown grease problem. Over the last year since we started operation, we've taken in more than 2.5 million gallons of brown grease. And the city of Danbury and the plant operator here, a company called Veolia, simply don't have to think about it anymore. It's just gone. From their standpoint, it's just gone. Okay. Now, the wider applicability is that in the United States, there are approximately 25,000 wastewater treatment plants and over 1 billion gallons a year of this brown grease. We've got to do something with it. And right now, most places are landfilling, incinerating, digesting, and in some cases, just running it through their wastewater treatment plant in limited quantities. Okay, we're offering a different solution. Worldwide, there's over 86,000 wastewater treatment plants that our technology could be deployed to. Economically, we feel that this is also the best solution because in a biodigester, while the biodigester, especially the new ones, can handle this brown grease, the methane they make isn't worth that much. If you look at historical trends on fuel prices over the past 10 years, biodiesel has consistently been the highest priced sustainable fuel. Okay, it's in demand. There are various movements across the country and the world to become more sustainable. And we can say that biodiesel that's made even from a high-grade feedstock like soybeans has about a 75% reduction in carbon footprint compared to petroleum diesel. Biodiesel that's made from this waste material like brown grease will have over an 85% reduction in carbon footprint compared to petroleum diesel. Plus, it's the highest price of various fuels on the market. So we feel we're getting a twofer here. We're getting a really good economic impact, and we're getting a really good environmental impact. And so my definition of sustainability should be that it's sustainable both environmentally and financially. So I think we're hitting those nails on the head.
Oh, that really makes a lot of sense. So with these, you have the success that's going on in Danbury, and so what are some of the key, I'll call it, challenges or barriers for other municipalities to adapt this system? What is it that you're hearing, and what is REA doing to address those, given the fact that I'm sure there's got to be some kind of CapEx investment or capital investment on the part of the city to incorporate your technology and get it installed and working. There's so many benefits. Tell us a little bit about those benefits and how you're addressing some of the challenges you're hearing about.
Yeah. The major challenge is that we're the new kid on the block. The wastewater treatment industry is an extremely conservative industry. Think about a wastewater treatment plant. This is the very definition of critical infrastructure. Okay?
Right.
When a wastewater treatment plant goes down and you have to tell a municipality of 100,000 people or 5 million people that they can't flush their toilets, there's going to be some blowback. Okay? Literally, figuratively.
Literally and figuratively, yes.
Every way you can think about it. This is critical infrastructure. Now, one of the things that we say to wastewater treatment plants that we're speaking with is that if they set up one of our facilities, there will be no negative impact and even positive impacts on the operation of their plant. The blowback we get from that is proven. We're the new kid on the block. Danbury is our very first facility in the world outside of a very small demonstration project that we did and my laboratories at UConn, University of Connecticut. So therefore, the barrier of entry is simply proof. We're generating that proof right now, and in fact, we've been now invited by the city of Danbury and their plant operator, Veolia, to take part in discussions and design work for more advanced applications of our biodiesel, both for internal electric generation. Let me back up there. The reason they're interested in that is there's a mandate from the U.S. Department of Energy and the U.S. government in general to get the critical infrastructure called the wastewater treatment industry off the grid in the next 10 or 15 years. So there's a very large incentive for the 25,000 wastewater treatment plants in the United States to develop internal energy solutions. Now, a lot of that, of course, is going to be things like solar energy, various, applications like that. But again, we get a twofer here. We can make their ground grease problem disappear, and we can contribute to their on-site energy generation. And so those are some of the discussions we're in with them right now, okay? So other challenges in the general biodiesel industry, we can pass all of the ASTM testing requirements necessary to qualify biodiesel for commercial sale, make us eligible for tax credits and all these other things. But the fuels industry knows that the cold weather properties of biodiesel aren't really quite as good as number 2 diesel. So what about gelling? What about pour point? What about this? What about that? Well, we now have a proprietary blend of biodiesel. It's still B100 biodiesel that has as good or better cold weather properties than number 2 diesel. Okay?
Wow.
It's simply a choice of properly blending feedstocks and processing technology, so we end up with a B100 biodiesel product that can outperform number 2 diesel. And the initial introduction of this is going to be done here in Danbury this winter in some of their trucks. They have a whole bunch of new Peterbilt trucks. And the warranties say certain things about biodiesel. We'll be able to satisfy their warranties and guarantee the cold weather properties at the same time. So in a nutshell, those are the 2 challenges. One is the cultural challenge in a very conservative industry of being the new kid on the block. And the second one is the correct perception that biodiesel has some problems with cold weather properties. And we're using a technological innovation to handle that.
That's amazing. We're so excited to hear about the Danbury success and the technology that you and your partners have developed. It's really impressive, and we're looking forward to having more collaboration. We've already collaborated between members of our team at Chang Robotics and your team, and we're looking forward to more collaboration as we work together to address the interest and the opportunities out there with all across North America, and as you said, beyond, worldwide. So we're grateful to have you here today, Dr. Parnas. We're grateful you're part of the Chang Robotics Brand Call, and we're looking forward to working more together. Can we invite you back again several months from now and kind of check in?
Yeah, we'll get an update.
That would be great. I really appreciate it. Well, thank you for being part of the Brand Call today, and we will check back with you.
Okay. Hey, earlier you had mentioned me sticking around. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I can stick around for about another 10 or 15 minutes, but I'm actually on a shift operating the plant right now. So.
Well, you do what you need to do, Dr. Parnas, but thank you so much for being part of the Brand Call today. And if we have questions that are specific to you, we will get them to you and we'll distribute it. We'll get that broadcast out to our audience.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to jump off. Okay.
All right. So now I'm really grateful to introduce my colleague, Chris Kalura. Now, Chris is a Vice President of Operations and Strategic Partnerships at Chang Robotics, a peer of mine that I work closely with, and an expert in advanced manufacturing and supply chain automation. So Chris has been the key leader in putting together partnerships and works with companies like as different as REA and as sort of straight up the fairway, being a golf guy, as the robotics manufacturers that are part of something we do every day at Chang Robotics. So welcome, Chris Kalura, to the Chang Robotics Brand Call.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You've had some compelling guests, so I got a lot to live up to here.
No, Chris, we're so excited to have you here. And we want to start right away with having you tell us about the structure and goals of the Chang Robotics Partnership Program, and maybe even, tie it in a little bit to how we as part of the Chang Robotics Fund want to be a catalyst to, make these partnerships even more powerful as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I was brought on by Matthew and team mostly due to my operations background, and then we quickly pivoted a little bit and took on the role of strategic partnerships. So I think every successful organization has partners that they rely on, whether formally or informally. And I've been a part of those at past organizations. And over the last 3 years, we've really prioritized cultivating and maintaining those partner relationships. It's a semi-formal, non-exclusive arrangement that allows some flexibility between both Chang Robotics and the partners that we engage with. We're targeting best-in-class partners that help deliver solutions to our customers. So we're dealing with top-notch companies, and it's been a true joy to learn from them and be engaged with them throughout the partner process. It typically, in terms of engagement, will start with project opportunities to align on, how we approach projects and culture. You don't want to partner with somebody who you don't align with on those things. So that's often the start. We get through one of those first projects, and then we decide where to take it from there. In terms of how we target our diverse set of suppliers, you mentioned Chang Robotics. It's inherent to our name, but we also like to round out our capabilities. So I'm dealing with design builders, fire protection specialists, racking manufacturers, site selection companies. You can see them on our website. They're all displayed there. But they really help us deliver just high-end projects to all of our customers. Quickly,
Chris, let me jump to a little bit about how your background in operations and project delivery helps in this role, and maybe even, if you have an example, give us an example of that, because we're excited to get to know you a little bit better today.
Yeah, I spent roughly 14 years in design, build, delivery model. Oftentimes that was hard bid subcontractor awards. So the partnership approach has been a breath of fresh air for me. It's more of a negotiated and conversational approach. The reason being, all of our work is very complex. So you are not going to go bid out work in a manner that's a commodity fashion. So you have to work with best-in-class, top-notch folks. And the partnership program allows us to already have negotiated terms and conditions, most competitive industry pricing, and all of those things that we're going to pass on the benefits to the customers. So it's been a true breath of fresh air to be able to build those relationships and leverage them as project opportunities come our way, and treat it as a two-way street as opposed to traditional, when people think of construction, hard bid type approaches to procurement.
So, tell us, we heard a little bit about the Robot Studio, and tell us about why it's important and strategic to Chang Robotics, and maybe, it's also one of the investment targeted by the general partnership in terms of the Chang Robotics Fund. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is exciting for us. So we're working on, you alluded to some of the physical space that we actually have in Jacksonville right now, where we're testing, we're working with partners and leveraging some of their space. They've been kind enough to cohabitate with us. Jacksonville is really a hotbed for tech talent, academia, a lot of other resources. And what we are looking at rolling out is later this year, early next year, a physical space that'll allow us to do several different things. One would be research and development. So that's going to tie into our IP studio. So I'll be working with Dr. Capener, Dr. Way very closely on those things. It allows us to do offsite testing. So actually, currently, we've received AMRs, and we're testing those in the space prior to deploying them at customer sites. So we're able to debug and kind of just allow surety of outcome before we bring them to the customer. And then a showcase. So new technologies, bringing customers in to show them what our partners can do and what they have to offer. It's going to serve several different purposes, and I think it's going to be really, really valuable and powerful for the Jacksonville community.
Wow, Chris, this is super exciting news for all of us. And at this point, I do want to pause just to see if we have any questions from the audience. And I'm going to reach out to my colleague, Cheyenne. Cheyenne, I know you're out there. Do we have any questions?
Yes, the first one is, since emphasizing partnerships, what have been some unexpected outcomes that you've experienced, Chris?
Good question. So I think the frequent and informal communication has been huge. I'm constantly texting, emailing, calling with my partners, and just bouncing ideas off of each other. It's not necessarily self-serving conversations. It could be someone calls me and says, I got a problem with this. Do you know anybody? And being able to provide them with the support they need to be successful brings me joy. So, and ultimately, we know that that's going to come back around in the end. So that's been huge. The business development pipeline has surely opened up. We do quarterly business reviews with each of our partners. So those conversations and structured meetings allow us to jointly develop opportunities together and make sure that we're up to speed on what technologies are being offered and where their strengths and gaps might be. And we provide that feedback to our partners. And I would say the last thing would be increased innovation through our shared resources. So we as Chang Robotics can't independently champion the latest and greatest cool things by ourselves. We're going to rely on our partners who may have more experience, better resources, availability to help us with that. So it allows us to tackle things that were once probably not achievable if we just operated alone.
Wow, Chris, I love that. My PhD's in international business, and I do lived in Asia, and I know you've lived and been and worked in various countries. And I always tell people that anyone, even in my shoes, who's an expert, say in Japan or China, it's different than me actually bringing in the top Japanese talent, top Chinese company talent and experts. And even with that expertise, I immediately turn to them rather than lean on, the education and the experiences that I have. And I think it's analogous to what you're saying. We're the type of company, open source, that knows we do a lot of things really well, but we're immediately looking for best of breed in every area we work in. So I love that philosophy. Any other questions, Cheyenne?
Yes, this one's about the robot studio. Who will be involved, and what is the long-term vision for that?
Okay, great. So I'll stay on theme. Partners will be the foundation. They will likely get first right of refusal to participate. So I'm going to leverage them first. In terms of other resources and partners, it would be silly to ignore the local university connections that we have. We have some alumni, past deans, some folks on the team that are very familiar with that. So we've got Jacksonville University, North Florida, Florida State. So we're going to be leveraging not just their resources, but their collaborative thoughts and new ideas, and welcoming them into the space to participate with us. And in terms of, I believe you said long-term vision, we want to create a collaborative ecosystem in Jacksonville. You mentioned JVC. I participated in the first two of those. Those were fantastic opportunities. I know there's other tech events going on in Jacksonville. The city has embraced technology, change, and the future. So we want to leverage that momentum. We want to lean on the corporate headquarters there. We want to lean on the healthcare presence, the industrial and manufacturing presence. We've got a major airport. So there's just so much upside in Jacksonville, and we want to continue to contribute to the community.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you for those questions, Cheyenne. We come to the point where it's time to wrap up this month's brand call. Thank you, Chris Kalura, for participating. And it's been great to have you as a guest. And it's been great working with you as a colleague. Cheyenne, could you take us through Chang Robotics in the news?
Awesome, Don. So here's some recent features we've had in the media. We discussed the press release on Go Eco already. Feel free to check that out. And Kate McAfoose, our president, wrote an awesome article on how to live out the idea of having a profitable, purpose-driven business, which is an awesome read. It also relates to a little bit of what Tammy discussed today. Powering the Future, we touched on that earlier. It was an awesome event in Jacksonville that we produced just yesterday. Also check out the press release that goes into a little bit more detail on Kodiak Tech's new CEO, Mark Manning. And then lastly, Chris Kalura, who you just heard from, wrote an insightful article in Grit Daily on innovation in manufacturing. Feel free to check all those things out on our website, changrobotics.ai, and I'll pass it back to you, Don, to close us out.
Okay, so how to get involved is, a combination of whether you have time to help connect us to people who we should know, the talent to make connections. We talked about with Go Eco. We're working with the FDA. We're working closely with the National Science Foundation. We're working with the FAA, with Kodiak Tech, and in other infrastructure focused. We're looking at working as the design partner to innovate one of the top 3 or 4 airports in North America. And we're excited to know more people. And so get involved and help us. And in terms of talent, we're growing as an organization. So we'd like to hear from you if you like what you hear, or you are interested in working with us and collaborating with us as a partner. Also, Chris has talked about the opportunities to be partners with Chang Robotics as we grow and do more with healthcare, manufacturing, many other industries. And of course, the other opportunity is to, as the fund becomes live, and is all the legal infrastructure and the private placement memorandum is filed and ready, we'll look forward to talking with those of you who are looking for investment opportunities that are not only economically exciting and incredible opportunities, but they also have this impact in both social and in other areas that we're super excited about. So it's like the trifecta of portfolio companies will be part of the Chang Robotics Fund. It's great to see everyone today. This is where we are in the fund. The next step will be the actual institutional capital raising portion. We've gotten through looking at portfolio companies like REA and getting a short list together. We put together the general partnership, filed paperwork, and we pretty much have most of the legal registrations complete. We have an outstanding fund management team that we've introduced before, and we're recruiting key advisors to be part of it. And again, we're excited and grateful for the opportunity to talk to you again today. And we will be back in September. If you, for those of you looking for more information, check us out at www.cr.fund. Thanks, everyone, and have a great Labor Day weekend. Thank you.